My wife secretly moved out with her boyfriend, abandoned our twins, and now regrets everything. But I've already moved on for good. I'm a 34-year-old male, married for 17 years to Melissa. We have a daughter, Zoe, who's 16. I work as an electrical contractor for big industrial sites, making solid money working with high-voltage systems that would fry most people. It's dangerous work but pays well enough that we had a decent house in a nice neighborhood. So, I'm at this job site about 30 minutes from home, sweating my butt off, installing some heavy-duty circuit breakers in a factory. My crew is taking lunch, but I'm trying to finish up this one panel so we can test it after the break. My neighbor, let's call him Derek, called me. Now Derek ain't the type to call during work hours. We're friendly enough, occasionally have a coffee, watch the game, that kind of stuff, but not close enough to be calling each other randomly on a Tuesday afternoon. Yo, what's up? I answer, already feeling something's off. Ethan, dude, you need to get home right now, Derek says, sounding panicked. My stomach drops immediately. What's happening? Is there a fire? Is Zoe okay? There's a U-Haul truck in front of your house, man. Like 3 guys are loading furniture into it. Your wife is there, supervising. I thought maybe you guys were moving and didn't tell me, but something seemed off. My brain just short-circuited. What? Are you serious right now? Dead serious, bro. They've already loaded your leather couch, that big TV from your living room, and a bunch of other stuff. Your wife doesn't look upset or anything. She's checking stuff off on a clipboard. I'll be there in 20, I said, already ripping off my work gloves. I basically ran to my supervisor, told him there was an emergency at home, possibly a robbery in progress. Dude took one look at my face and just nodded. Go. I broke every goddamn speed limit getting home. My mind was racing the whole time. Was this some kind of organized daytime robbery? Was Melissa being forced to help at gunpoint or something? Did she snap and decide to just bail on our marriage? Nothing made sense. As I screeched into our neighborhood, I could see the U-Haul from the end of the block, a big 26-footer parked half on our lawn. And sure enough, there's Melissa in her yoga pants and tank top, holding a clipboard, looking completely unworried while some guys I'd never seen before were carrying our furniture out of our house. But what really got me seeing red was this tall dude in designer sunglasses and a polo shirt, pointing and directing the movers like he owned the place, standing on my property, giving orders about my stuff. I slammed on the brakes, threw my truck in park, and jumped out so fast I didn't even close the door behind me. Stormed right up to that polo shirt guy. What the hell do you think you're doing? I shouted, getting right in his face. This clown barely looked at me, just glanced over with this annoyed expression and said, "Mind your business, dude." I don't remember consciously deciding to hit him. It was like my body moved on its own. My fist connected with his jaw so hard I felt the impact shoot all the way up to my shoulder. He went down 0070 down like a sack of bricks, sunglasses flying off, blood already starting to trickle from his lip. I was on him in a second, just blind with rage. 17 years of marriage, working 60-hour weeks sometimes, never even looking at another woman, and here's this random dude stealing my things in broad daylight. You think you can steal from me? I was yelling, landing punch after punch. The movers just stood there watching, not even trying to stop me. With one hand still gripping his shirt collar, I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. There's a robbery at my house, I told the dispatcher, breathing hard. I've got one of them subdued. Send cops now. I gave them my address and hung up. That's when I heard Melissa screaming, "Ethan, what are you doing? Get off him!" She dropped her clipboard and ran over, shoving me hard enough that I actually lost my grip on the guy. She dropped to her knees beside him, checking his face, wiping blood from his nose with her sleeve, looking at him like. That's when it hit me. "Do you know this jerk?" I asked, already knowing the answer but needing to hear it. Melissa looked up at me, and I'll never forget the expression on her face. Not guilt, not shame, annoyance, like I was the one causing problems. "Yes," she said, her voice ice cold. "This is Jordan, he's my boyfriend." I swear to God, time stopped, my ears started ringing. 17 years, a lifetime together, and this is how I find out. Before I could even process what was happening, my foot connected with Jordan's ribs, hard. He groaned and curled up. Then I kicked him again, this time right on target. He made this high-pitched wheezing sound that would have been hilarious in any other situation. "You're my wife," I shouted at Melissa, "and you're moving our stuff out with your boyfriend?" I looked at the U-Haul, then back at her. What the hell is this? You're just leaving, taking half our things without even telling me? She stood up, brushing dirt off her knees. I was going to call you after. I didn't want a scene. A scene? Like this was just some minor inconvenience. Like she wasn't blowing up our entire life without even a conversation. The cops showed up before I could really process what was happening. 2 cruisers, lights flashing. The neighbors were all out on their porches by this point, watching the show unfold. This big cop immediately got between me and Jordan, who was still on the ground, moaning. "What's going on here?" he demanded, hand hovering near his weapon. "I'm the homeowner," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I got a call from my neighbor that people were loading my furniture into a truck. I came home and found this guy directing the movers. My wife apparently decided to leave me and take half our stuff without telling me." The officer looked at Melissa. "Ma'am, is this your husband?" She nodded, still looking pissed. "And you're removing items from the house?" "I'm taking my half," she said, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. The officer sighed. "Ma'am, you can't just take things from the marital home without a court order. Until a judge orders the assets to be split, you can't legally remove furniture or major possessions." Melissa's face went from annoyed to shocked. "What? That's ridiculous. Half of this stuff is mine." "Maybe so," he said, "but you need legal documentation before you start dividing property. What you're doing right now could technically be considered theft." Her mouth dropped open. "Theft? It's my stuff too." "The law doesn't work that way, ma'am. You need to go through proper legal channels." By this time, the second cop was helping Jordan up. Dude's face was already swelling, blood smeared across his chin. He was giving me the death glare but wisely kept his mouth shut. "So, what am I supposed to do?" Melissa demanded. "You can take your personal effects, clothes, toiletries, items that are clearly yours alone. But furniture, electronics, anything that could be considered jointly owned, stays until the courts decide otherwise." Melissa looked like she was about to explode. I can't believe this." Jordan finally spoke up, his voice nasal from his busted nose. "Baby, let's just go. We'll figure it out later." "Baby?" I lunged toward him, but the cop caught me. "That's enough," he said firmly. "One more move like that, and you're in cuffs too." I backed off but was still seeing red. The cops turned to the movers who'd been standing around this whole time like they were watching a damn reality show. "You guys need to unload everything you've already put in the truck. Now." They shrugged and started carrying stuff back inside. "This isn't over," Melissa hissed at me as she stomped into the house to pack her clothes. "Oh, it's just getting started," I called after her. After the cops left, one stayed to make sure everything got put back and Melissa only took her personal stuff. I sat in my living room, staring at the wall, trying to process what the hell had just happened. My knuckles were bruised and swelling. My wedding ring felt like it was burning a hole in my finger. I took it off and tossed it onto the coffee table. I was still sitting there when Zoe got home from school. She walked in, backpack slung over one shoulder, and stopped short when she saw me. "Dad, why are you home?" Then she noticed the state of the living room, furniture all askew from being moved and put back, a few drops of blood on the carpet from where I'd beat Jordan's ass. "What happened?" I patted the couch next to me. "Sit down, kiddo. We need to talk." She sat, looking nervous. "Is everything okay?" I took a deep breath. "Your mom left today. She's seeing someone else." I expected shock, confusion, maybe tears. What I didn't expect was for Zoe to just nod slightly and say, "Oh, you mean Jordan?" The air left my lungs like I'd been punched. You knew about him?" She started picking at her nails, not meeting my eyes. "Yeah, Mom told me a while ago. How long?" My voice sounded hollow, even to me. She shrugged. "Like 6 months, maybe. He's her college boyfriend. They reconnected on Facebook last year." Each word felt like a knife. My own daughter had known my wife was cheating for months and never said a word to me. "She said he's her soulmate," Zoe continued, still not looking at me, "that they were meant to be together, but life got in the way. He had to move to Europe for work right after college, and they lost touch. She said she only married you because you were stable and would be a good provider. So, I was just a backup plan, just an ATM machine." Zoe shrugged again. "She said you were a good choice, reliable, nice. But she never really loved you the way she loved Jordan. The casual way she said it, Like she was discussing the weather, like my entire life hadn't been a goddamn lie. Like she hadn't been complicit in keeping this secret from me. So, if Jordan had never left for Europe, your mom would have married him instead, and you would have been his kid. That would have been better, right? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Yeah, Zoe said with this dreamy look. Mom says they're soulmates. It would have been perfect. Who else knows about this? About Jordan? I asked. Grandma and Grandpa know, she said, referencing Melissa's parents. They never really liked you anyway. They always thought Mom could do better. That was the final straw. 17 years with those people. 17 Christmases, Thanksgivings, and birthdays, fixing their cars, helping them move, building them a goddamn deck for their retirement house. And they'd never really liked me. I laughed. It wasn't a happy sound. Dad, are you okay? Zoe asked, finally looking concerned. I gave her a smile that I know didn't reach my eyes. I'm going to be just fine. In fact, I'm going to give everyone exactly what they want. I didn't sleep that night. Just sat there, making plans. By morning I knew exactly what I was going to do. First stop, my buddy Marcus's law office. Marcus is this shark of a divorce attorney who handles all the nasty high-conflict splits in town. We played football together in high school, and I'd rewired his whole house for free last year. I walked in without an appointment, but his secretary took one look at my face and immediately ushered me back. Jesus, Ethan, you look like... Marcus said when I walked in. What's going on? I laid it all out for him, every detail. By the time I finished, he was already pulling out forms. I need this done fast, I told him. And I need to protect everything I have. She gets the absolute minimum required by law, not a penny more. Marcus nodded. We'll file today. Emergency hearing to freeze assets too, since she already tried to remove property. What about custody? I laughed bitterly. Let her have Zoe. They deserve each other. Marcus raised an eyebrow but didn't argue. Child support will still be required. Fine. Whatever the law requires until she's 18, but nothing extra. After the lawyer, I went straight to our bank. Walked up to the teller with my ID already out. I need to withdraw from our joint account, I said. All of it. The teller, her name tag said Brenda, looked nervous when she saw the balance. Almost $23,000, our emergency fund plus some savings for a kitchen remodel we'd been planning. The entire amount, sir? Actually, I said, thinking about it. Leave $37 in there. She blinked, confused. That's a specific amount. It's exactly what my wife has contributed to that account in the last year, I said. The rest came from my paychecks. Next, I called HR at my company and removed Melissa as the beneficiary on my 401k and life insurance, replacing her with my sister, called our credit card companies and reported the cards as lost so they'd be deactivated, canceled our joint Costco membership, Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, everything. I even called our gym and told them my wife would no longer be on my family plan. Last, I called my mom and filled her in on what happened. I can't say I'm surprised, she said after a long pause. That girl always had wandering eyes, even at your wedding. Why didn't you say something? Would you have listened? You were so in love. Besides, I didn't have proof. Just a feeling. Mothers know these things. We talked a bit longer, and I told her my plan to let Melissa have custody of Zoe. Are you sure about that? Mom asked. Zoe's still your daughter, even if she's been difficult. I can't look at her right now, Mom. Every time I see her face, all I can think about is how she knew and didn't tell me. How she was excited about it. How she wished some other guy was her dad. She's 16, Ethan. Kids that age say stupid things. They don't understand consequences. Well, she's about to learn. But my mom wasn't done. If you really feel you can't handle having Zoe with you, she can stay with me until things settle down. But don't make any permanent decisions while you're angry. I agreed to think about it. Maybe my mom was right. But right then, I couldn't stand the thought of looking at Zoe's face every day, knowing she'd been part of this deception. The next day, Melissa got served papers at the salon where she worked as a stylist. According to the process server I hired, yeah, I paid extra for same-day service, she turned white as a ghost when she realized what she was getting, which was absolutely nothing. Our house was in my name since I bought it 2 years before we got married. My truck was a company vehicle. Her car was already in her name, so she could keep that. No alimony, since we both worked and made comparable salaries. Just basic child support for Zoe until she turned 18, which was less than 2 years away. Her phone blew up my phone all afternoon. I let it go to voicemail the first 10 times. The 11th time I finally answered. "What is this?" she screamed as soon as I picked up. "Divorce papers?" "I thought that was obvious from all the legal language," I said calmly. "You're trying to leave me with nothing?" "That's not how this works, Ethan. I get half of everything." I couldn't help but laugh. "You get half of what we acquired together during the marriage. The house was mine before we got married. My 401k is protected because you have your own retirement account. We make the same money, so no alimony. Your car is already in your name. You're getting exactly what you're legally entitled to, which, by the way, is a hell of a lot more than you deserve after hooking up with some guy behind my back for months." "This isn't over," she hissed. "I'll fight this." "Good luck with that. I've got texts from Zoe confirming you've been cheating for at least 6 months. I've got a police report from yesterday when you tried to steal our furniture. And I've got Marcus as my lawyer who, as you know, eats people like your bargain basement attorney for breakfast." She started crying then, actually trying to guilt me. How am I supposed to start over with nothing after 17 years together? Don't I deserve something for all that time? "You got Jordan," I said. "Your soulmate, right? The guy you should have been with all along. Well, now you can be together without me in the way. Isn't that what you wanted?" I hung up before she could answer. 2 weeks later was our first court date. Marcus had pushed for an expedited hearing, and with the evidence of Melissa trying to remove property, the judge agreed. I showed up in my best suit, clean-shaven, looking as respectable as possible. Marcus was already there, organizing his files, looking like the predator he was in the courtroom. Melissa arrived a few minutes later with her lawyer, some chick named Vanessa, who looked fresh out of law school. Jordan was with her, his face still slightly discolored from our introduction. They sat on the opposite side of the courtroom, and I could feel them glaring at me the whole time. Zoe showed up with Melissa's parents, avoiding eye contact like I was some distant uncle. I stayed stone-faced, even though it stung watching her stand with the people who backed Melissa's mess. The judge got things moving, and Melissa's lawyer came in swinging for half the house, support, and retirement. Marcus, cool as ever, shut it all down. House was mine before the marriage. Retirement accounts were separate, and no spousal support since we made about the same. When it came to the joint account, Marcus dropped receipts showing Melissa barely contributed, and the judge sided with us. Then came the real deal. Melissa didn't want custody, said she was moving in with her new guy, and didn't want to uproot Zoe for her senior year. Zoe looked blindsided. Marcus suggested her staying with Melissa's parents temporarily, and surprisingly they agreed. The judge went with it, making custody official for now and ordering us both to pay support. As we left the courtroom, Zoe called after me. I stopped, turning to face her. She looked smaller somehow, more like a child than the teenager who'd so casually told me I was just a placeholder in her mother's life. "Why don't you want me to live with you?" she asked, tears streaming down her face. "You hate me now." Something in me softened slightly. "I don't hate you, Zoe, but I can't look at you right now without remembering how you kept your mother's affair a secret. How you told me it would have been perfect if Jordan had been your father instead of me." "I didn't mean it," she cried. "I was just repeating what Mom said." "That's the problem," I said quietly. "You believed her, you went along with it. You picked a side, and it wasn't mine." Her grandmother put an arm around her shoulders. "Come on, sweetheart, let's go home." As they led her away, she looked back at me, still crying. For a second, I almost called her back. Almost. Marcus put a hand on my shoulder. "That was rough," he said. "You okay?" "No," I answered honestly. "But I will be." The next couple of weeks were a blur. I threw myself into work, taking every overtime shift I could get. When I wasn't working, I was looking for a new place to live. I couldn't stand being in that house anymore, surrounded by memories of a life that had been a lie. I found a decent apartment closer to work, 2 bedrooms, so Zoe would have a place to stay if things ever got better between us. I wasn't ready to completely write her off. Despite everything, she was still my kid. Melissa tried calling a few times, but I let it go to voicemail. Her messages ranged from angry threats to tearful pleas to cold negotiations about dividing up the small stuff from the house. I responded only to the practical messages, and only through text. About 3 weeks after the court hearing, I got a call from Zoe's grandmother, Carol. "Ethan, it's about Zoe," she said, her voice tight. "She's not doing well." My heart dropped. "What's wrong? Is she sick?" "Not physically. She's hardly eating, barely sleeping. Her grades are dropping. She's devastated, Ethan. She thinks you've abandoned her." I sighed, rubbing my temple. "Carol, she knew about the affair for months and didn't tell me. She told me to my face she wished another man had been her father. What am I supposed to do with that?" There was a long pause. "Did you know," Carol finally said, "that Melissa told Zoe she'd send her to boarding school if she ever told you about Jordan?" I sat down hard. "What?" "Melissa threatened her, said if Zoe ruined things, she'd make sure Zoe regretted it. That girl was trapped between her parents, Ethan. She made a mistake, but she was manipulated by her mother. I didn't know what to say. I'd been so hurt, so angry, I hadn't considered that Zoe might have been coerced into keeping the secret. "Would you be willing to talk to her?" she asked. "Really talk? I think she needs to hear from you that you don't hate her." "I'll come by tomorrow after work," I promised. When I showed up at Carol and Bill's house the next day, Zoe was sitting on the front porch. She looked terrible. Pale, with dark circles under her eyes. Her hair, which she'd always taken such pride in, was pulled back in a messy ponytail. She stood up when she saw me, uncertain. "Your grandmother called me," I said. "Said you're not doing great." She shrugged, looking at the ground. "I'm fine." I sat down on the porch steps and patted the spot next to me. After a moment's hesitation, she sat down. "Grandma told me Mom threatened you," I said, "about keeping the Jordan thing a secret." Zoe tensed beside me. "She said she'd send me away, that I'd never see my friends again, that it would be my fault her happiness was ruined." I took a deep breath, trying to control the fresh wave of anger at Melissa. "Why didn't you tell me that in court, or before?" "I was scared," she whispered, "and ashamed. I knew it was wrong, what Mom was doing, but I didn't know what to do." We sat in silence for a minute. "I never wished Jordan was my dad," she finally said. "Not really. Mom kept telling me how perfect he was, how happy they were going to be. I guess I wanted to believe her, that there was this perfect life waiting for us. Life isn't perfect, kiddo. There's no such thing as soulmates or fairy tale endings. There's just people trying their best, sometimes failing, sometimes succeeding." She nodded, wiping at her eyes. "I know that now." Another silence. "I miss you, Dad," she finally said, her voice breaking. Something in my chest loosened. I reached out and put my arm around her shoulders. "I miss you too, Zoe." She leaned into me, and suddenly she was sobbing, her whole body shaking. I held her, letting her cry it out, feeling my own eyes getting wet. "I'm sorry," she kept saying between sobs. "I'm so sorry." "I know," I told her. "I know you are." When she finally calmed down, I said, "How would you feel about coming to see my new apartment this weekend? It's nothing fancy, but I've got a room set up for you if you want it." She looked up at me, hope in her eyes for the first time. "Really? Really? We've got a lot to work through, and it won't all happen overnight." "But you're my daughter, Zoe. That hasn't changed." She hugged me so hard it actually hurt. "I'd like that," she said. "I'd like that a lot." As I was leaving, Carol stopped me at the door. "Thank you," she said quietly. "And I'm sorry. Bill and we should have said something when we found out what Melissa was doing. She's our daughter. We thought she'd come to her senses." I nodded, understanding in a way I wouldn't have before. We all make mistakes trying to protect our kids. Then came the final divorce hearing. It was mostly a formality. The judge made the temporary orders permanent, with a few minor adjustments. Zoe would split time between my apartment and her grandparents' house, with the option to stay with Melissa on occasional weekends if she wanted to. She didn't. Melissa showed up alone, no Jordan. She looked rough, had lost weight, dark circles under her eyes. She barely said a word the whole time, just nodded when the judge asked if she understood the terms. As we were leaving the courthouse, she caught up to me in the parking lot. "Ethan, wait," she called. I stopped, steeling myself. "What? She took a deep breath. "I wanted to say I'm sorry. For everything." I stared at her, trying to find any trace of the woman I'd loved for 17 years. "Little late for that, isn't it?" She looked down at her hands. "Jordan left. He wasn't who I thought he was. I couldn't help it," I laughed. You threw away our entire life together for a guy who bailed on you after a month? Classic. It wasn't like that, she protested. He was different than I remembered. Let me guess, the fantasy didn't match the reality? She didn't answer directly. I made a mistake, Ethan. A terrible mistake. Yeah, you did. Several, actually. She looked up at me, and I could see she'd been crying. Do you think... Is there any chance we could... No, I cut her off. Not in this lifetime. You didn't just cheat on me, Melissa. You lied to me for months. You manipulated and threatened our daughter. You tried to steal from me. You broke every fucking promise you ever made to me. There's nothing left. I still love you, she whispered. I shook my head. No, you don't. You love the idea of me as a safety net, now that your fantasy blew up in your face. She flinched like I'd slapped her. That's not fair. None of this is fair, Melissa. Welcome to real life. I turned to walk away. He hit me, she blurted out. I stopped, not turning around. Jordan? I asked. Yeah, she continued. He had a temper. I never saw it before we moved in together. He'd get so angry over nothing. And one night he just snapped. Despite everything, I felt a flash of anger. Nobody deserves that, not even her. Did you report him? I asked, still not looking at her. Yeah, she said quietly. He's got a restraining order now. I finally turned back. Good. I'm glad you did that. At least, I'm staying with my cousin right now, she said. The salon cut my hours because I was a mess after everything. I knew what she was angling for. Financial help, a place to stay, her old life back. But that ship had sailed, hit an iceberg and sunk to the bottom of the ocean. I hope things get better for you, I said, and meant it. But it's not my problem anymore. I walked away then, feeling lighter than I had in months. The divorce was final. The past was the past. It was time to focus on rebuilding my relationship with Zoe and figuring out what the hell I wanted from the rest of my life. And it's amazing how much can change in half a year. I've been promoted at work, now running my own crew installing electrical systems in new commercial buildings. The money's better, the hours are more regular, and I actually get weekends off most of the time. Zoe moved in with me full-time about 2 months ago. She's doing better in school, talking about colleges, even dating this kid named Alex who seems decent enough, though I still give him the death stare when he picks her up, as is my fatherly duty. We've had some hard conversations, Zoe and me, about trust, about family, about making mistakes and moving forward. Sometimes it's still rocky, but we're getting there. She's seeing a therapist once a week, which has helped her process everything that happened. Last weekend, she asked about her mom. They talk occasionally, but Melissa hasn't been consistent about visiting. Do you ever miss her? Zoe asked as we were making dinner. I thought about it while chopping vegetables. I miss who I thought she was, I answered honestly, but that person never really existed. So, no, not really. Zoe nodded, seeming to understand. She keeps asking about you. If you're seeing anyone. I chuckled. Tell her to worry about her own love life. Speaking of which, I have been seeing someone. Nothing serious yet, but promising. She's a project manager for the construction company that hires my electrical crew. We met on a job site when she called me out for using the wrong gauge wire. She was right. Turns out they'd changed the specs and no one told me. She's smart, doesn't take any BS, makes me laugh, and is completely different from Melissa in every way that matters. She's also been divorced, so she gets it. The baggage, the trust issues, the hesitation to dive in again. We're taking it slow. She's met Zoe a couple of times, just casual dinners. Zoe likes her, which is a relief. Melissa still tries to contact me occasionally, mostly about practical things, tax documents she needs, questions about health insurance for Zoe, but sometimes she tries to get personal. I keep it strictly business. There's no going back, and honestly, I don't want to. I ran into her parents at Zoe's school concert last month. It was awkward at first, but Bill shook my hand and said, "You're a good father, Ethan. Better than we gave you credit for." It wasn't quite an apology, but it was something. As for Jordan, I heard through the grapevine that he violated the restraining order and spent a month in county lockup. Can't say I'm broken up about it. Now, a year ago, if you told me my wife would leave me for another man and my daughter would be complicit in hiding it, I'd have said it would destroy me completely. And for a while, it nearly did. But here I am, still standing. Stronger maybe than I was before. Life didn't just go on, it got better. Not in a movie montage, everything is perfect kind of way. But in the way where your chest doesn't feel like it's caving in every time you walk through your own front door. The silence in my house used to scream. Now it feels like peace. Zoe and I were good, real good. That took time and some brutally honest conversations, but we found our way back. She's got this insane level of emotional maturity now, tells me she wants to study psychology, so she can help other kids deal with the crap we barely talk about in most families. That's her heart, man. She's got it. Melissa's still out there, making Melissa choices. Last I heard, she's dating some dude from a car dealership who wears way too much cologne and says bro unironically. Zoe meets up with her every few weeks for lunch or whatever. I let them have their space. I've got no energy left to police that dynamic. And me? I'm doing all right. Jamie moved in a little while ago. She's nothing like what I thought I needed, and somehow exactly what I do. We keep it simple. She makes Zoe laugh. That alone earns her a gold star. Sold the house, wrapped up the paperwork, and walked away from all the ghosts that came with it. Even split the profits with Melissa. Call it a business transaction in the name of sanity. And I don't regret how I handled the divorce. You don't fight a forest fire with a squirt gun. When someone's torching your life, you grab the hose, call the fire department, and bulldoze the burnt leftovers. Clean slate, zero apologies. The one thing I do wish I'd handled differently was Zoe. I was angry, hurt, blindsided, and I took that pain and made it a wall between us. Took time to break it down. But we're good now. Better than good, actually. She challenges me, calls me out, makes me proud in a way I can't explain without tearing up. Oh, and if anyone's wondering about Jordan, Melissa's soulmate, that dude spiraled fast, turned out to be controlling, manipulative, paranoid, the whole greatest hits album of red flags. Zoe told me he ended up in jail after things got physical. Melissa landed in the hospital. Karma's weird like that. Doesn't always come fast, but it rarely forgets. Do I feel bad? I don't know. I wouldn't wish abuse on anyone, but I also can't forget how she played me, lied to me, and tried to erase me like I was a glitch in her love story reboot. That's on her. She built the bridge, she burned it, then watched it fall with a front row seat. And to everyone DMing me, asking if Zoe is really mine, stop, seriously. That girl is mine in every way that matters. DNA doesn't define a father, showing up does. Anyway, life isn't a fairy tale. But I'm no longer stuck in a horror story either. And if you're sitting in the wreckage of your own relationship right now, wondering if there's a way out, there is. You walk, you rebuild, you protect your peace like it's sacred. Because it is. Catch you all on the flip.